Welcome back again to Chess Cruncher with Bags. This is a game that I played against Sofera 23, and I'm white and my opponent is black. I really enjoy this game and I want to show you how it went, and it was fun, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoy the game. Okay, starts out with d4, d5, c4, c6, c3, f6, bishop g5. If you see now, I'm pinning actually the knight to the pawn, so if he pushes the e-pawn, it'll pin his knight to his queen. And I also have full development on the queen side. I need to, my next goal probably is to take the e-file. It's going to be interesting. I really enjoyed this, and you'll get to see what happens. F5. I go F3, E6. Now remember what I said when he moved the E-pawn. Now his piece is pinned to his queen. I go E4. I'm now going for the center. I'm also getting ready to push the pawn and pin his and actually take his knight, because he can't move his knight. If you see, it's along the same diagonal as his queen. He'd lose his queen for a bishop, so that wouldn't be a good idea. He goes pawn takes pawn. I go pawn takes pawn. He goes g4. I go knight f3. He goes bishop e7. I go pawn push. E5. I'm now making him, if you notice, he has to move his knight at f6. If he doesn't, he loses it. And if anywhere he moves, I can get a piece from him, because what will happen is he'll move his knight either to, he could move it to h5, or maybe e4. But if he moves it to e4, he loses a piece, and if he moves it back to the square that it was originally on, g8, he's lost the tempo, and everything's just not really good going for him. So he moves to e4. I go knight takes e4, because now if you notice that when he moved there, now I have two attackers. See, I have two defenders. The two knights protect the bishop. So if bishop takes bishop, like, with the queen, I could take knight and I've won a piece. And even if he plays bishop takes bishop and I play my knight takes, and he plays queen takes, I'm still up a piece. So everything is really, really good. So he does play bishop takes g5. I take with the knight. He takes bishop takes f3. That's not a very good move, because watch, bang, back I come. Now I'm up a piece. I'm up a bishop, and he is down a piece, a bishop, which is really important. You'll see later on in the game. He goes queen a5. He's attacking. I go, nope, sorry, queen d4. He goes queen c5, queen c7. I go bishop d3. He goes knight d7. I castle. I have pieces, if you notice, hammering down the f-file right at his king. I can move my knight to g5, and I can start the onslaught. Pawn, rook takes, or I can even play knight takes f7, and I'd win a pawn. He castles. He has to castle. I go g5 like I did before. I'm now threatening the h7 pawn with my bishop, if you notice. So he has to move h6. I go back to h3. I'm getting ready to reroute my my knight to f4, and then I'm going to swing it up into h5 and prepare to bring my rook, do a rook lift to f3, and then over to g3 and pinning the pawn, and maybe even playing queen takes h6 later on. But that's just a later on plan. He goes c5, trying to break up my pawn structure. I go knight f7. I'm preparing to swing over, and then I could even, like I said, take the pawn with the queen, and everything's operation go. So he goes C takes D. I go rook takes D. I'm also threatening. I could play check with my bishop plays check, and I can get my piece back, and also be up still a piece. I'll be up a knight, and I'm slowly getting my position stronger and stronger and stronger. He goes knight takes E5. I go queen to F4, pinning his knight to his queen. He goes knight to, queen C5. I am now doubling up again. I'm doing rook to D1. He goes knight to G6, attacking my queen. I go, don't think so. He takes. Now I move back to G3. There, let's go back a little bit, and we'll see. I'm going back to before I have to move my queen because of the rook. There's a couple different areas I could have moved. I thought about moving to D6, maybe threatening the queen, playing queen takes, and then I could play rook takes, and I can threaten the E6 pawn, and also through the E6 I can go into the G6 pawn. But I decided to play it safe, and I'll remember we did G3. I played G3. Okay, so he played rook to F6. He's trying to double up his rooks. I move my king to H1, getting out of the pin of the queen so that he can't play the pawn takes, the pawn push, and I lose a rook. Now he doubles up. I move my rook up D8. I'm pinning his rook to his king, and he has to move his king, so I play rook takes F8, queen takes. I bring my rook to G1, protecting any issues. If he moves his rook down to, you're thinking, wait a second, he can go to F2. No. Do you see what happens if he goes to F2? I could play queen takes rook, he'll play queen takes, and I could play knight takes, and I'm up 2 pieces. And he sees that. So I know it looks kind of interesting. He's down a piece, but I'm down 1 pawn. You'll have to see how the game proceeds. It's really a cool game. Okay, he goes C5, trying to get a piece. He's attacking, if you notice, my rook at G1, but that really can't do anything, because even if he moves his rook down there, I could take it, and there'd still be an issue. I go C3. I'm attacking his rook. I can also, anytime I want, swing a pawn up to, if you notice, B4 and attack his queen, push it back. I could also go A4 and push his queen back even further. If you notice, I have a pawn majority on the queen side. If I can get those pawns rolling, it's over. He plays A6, trying to prevent that. I go B4. Bang! Get out of here, queenie. He goes C6, queen C6. I go A4, wham! He goes rook to F5. He knows that he has to protect the B5 square, otherwise his queen would have to move again, and so he knows that. But I say, hey, let's bring it on. He goes A takes B5. I go pawn takes. He goes rook takes pawn. I don't even mind that. I go, come on, let's bring it on. And he takes queen takes, pawn takes, and with that he sees that I can bring my rook over to C1, protect the pawn, escort it down. I even can, if I wanted to, bring my knight to F4. I could take the pawn either with my knight, and whatever move he does, or either pawn. If you notice, if I go to bring my rook to F4, you already see it, I fork his G and his E pawn. And even there's really nothing he could do with that. I'm up a piece. I know I'm down 2 pawns, but he sees, like we were talking, he sees that there's no hope. There's tons of threats that I have, and so he lets his time run, and that is how the game between Bags and Sofera 23 ends. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed explaining it to you, my chess friends. And I will see you again on Chess Cruncher. See you later, and God bless.